Hi guys, for those of you who are regular subscribers to my channel, you will notice that this is something very different from what I typically do, but I wanted to film a tutorial on this and put it out there to help anyone who is having a little trouble with it and needs some guidance, much like I did when I first started. What we are talking about today is how to tuck your hair up underneath your riding helmet for a horse show via a hairnet. I have seen a lot of different styles, a lot of different approaches to doing this, but the way that I am going to show you is probably the most professional way. If you go to any of the big shows or just see people who show a lot, this is the style that you will see girls and women wearing. This is how most of us get our hair up under our helmets. It's sleek, it's neat, it's polished, and it's elegant, and that is what you want when you are going into the show ring. It's also very practical for different temperatures as well. It's nice when it's warm out because you don't have your hair hanging down your back. You can get it up off your back and your shoulders under your helmet. And it's also nice during the winter because you get free earmuffs, as you'll see in a bit. I should note right now that this is strictly for hunter jumper. Other disciplines like dressage have their own dress codes, so make sure you follow your dress code if you're in another discipline. You're only going to need three things. First off, you're going to need a hair net. Now this is for like the fully enclosed kind of hairnet. I know they're making those new ones now that you just kind of put around your neck like a scarf and then pull up. This is different. This is the old school hairnet. One or two knots. The one knot is pretty easy because you can just stick the one knot in the back. I am going to be demonstrating with the two knot hairnet because, as I will explain in a little bit, it can be a bit more complicated with placing the knots. And it should more or less match your hair color. This is medium brown. I typically wear dark brown, but for whatever reason the tack store has been out of dark brown hairnets lately, so I've gone down to medium brown. It's the next closest thing. As long as it is as close as you can get to your natural hair color, you should be good. You're also going to need a hair elastic. I am using a colored one for the sake of demonstration in case I need to show you guys what I'm doing with the elastic or whatever. This way it will show up against my hair. But again, with the hairnet, like with the hairnet, I recommend having a hair elastic that pretty much matches the color of your hair, especially if you are showing, because depending on the style of helmet you have, in case the elastic peeks through the back of your helmet, like mine laces up the back. Any little thing like that, like if it's a bright color that's a visual distraction for the judge, is a big no-no when you're in the ring. And last but not least, you are going to need your helmet. A word quickly about your helmet. If you are ever going to be wearing your hair tucked up underneath your helmet, it's important that the size of your helmet allows for that, because otherwise, if maybe you have too much hair and too little helmet and you're trying to squish it all up underneath your helmet, it can actually interfere with the way that your helmet sits on your head. And if your helmet doesn't sit on your head the way it's designed to, it's not going to protect your head the way it's designed to in case of a fall or an accident. So this is a safety thing, and plus it makes it much more comfortable. I want to talk briefly about my hair before I get started. You'll see that I have some short pieces in the front. They used to be a bit shorter, about up to here. They've grown out a bit, but this style has been effective even when they were shorter and I couldn't quite pull them all the way back into a ponytail. Also, with long hair, my hair is also quite long. It's about down to my rib cage, and even with the length, I have no problem getting it under my helmet using this method. It's not terribly thick and dense, but at least with the curl, it does tend to take up a little more room than straight hair, and again, I have no problems. This should be fine with short or heavily layered hair. In fact, I'll talk about a little tip when we get later on when it comes to actually getting your hair under your helmet that can help. And then also with jewelry, I usually don't have these little studs in here when I ride. They can kind of serve as an anchor for your hairnet because we're going to be pulling our hair over our ears. But mostly I want to talk about cartilage piercings. I don't have anything up at the top here. I don't have any issues with these, with it pressing against the back. My only issue is that sometimes the barbells get tangled in my hairnet a little bit, but that's usually an easy fix. I also have this bad boy on this side, and I do ride with him in because I would have to go to a piercer to get this jewelry taken out, and I'm not going to go to a piercer every single time I ride, so I just leave the ring in. This will also show through my hairnet a little bit if I don't arrange my hair quite to cover it, but in terms of pressure and discomfort, it is also not a problem. I talked to one of my teammates one time about her hair because she has an industrial piercing going across the top of her ear, which is where you have two piercings and one barbell that connects them, and I asked out of curiosity if she has any issues with pressure or discomfort from her helmet, and she said no. Now, one thing that I will say to start, you might have to experiment with this a little bit to find out what finished product you really like, but I have noticed that the way that you start, whether you have your hair in front like this or behind your shoulders like this, it seems to affect the angle at which your hair is ultimately going to cover your ears. So if you don't want all of your ears covered, just maybe like the tops of your ears, start like this. I personally like to have my ears almost totally covered by my hair, kind of like this. So I actually start with at least some of my hair pulled forward. Also, if you have bangs, anything that is going to hang over your forehead, those you are going to want to start pinned up, I think, because otherwise they'll probably show underneath your helmet, and I don't think you would want those pressed to your forehead while you're riding and sweating. Any kind of short layers, though, on the sides should be no problem. As I said, I used to have shorter layers around my face, and this was not a problem at all. I want to talk briefly about the placement of the knots. If you are using a 1-knot hairnet, that's usually not a problem. You can just stick the 1 knot in the back by the nape of your neck, and you don't have anything up around your face to worry about. But I am going to demonstrate with a 2-knot hairnet. I have both styles. I'm just now demonstrating with this one because, as I said earlier, it can be a little complicated with placing the knots. I have seen some people do it with 1 knot in the front and 1 in the back. I personally don't recommend doing it like that, though, because if you don't get the placement of the knot like just right when you push your hairnet up and put your helmet on, and it's digging into your forehead, you can very easily give yourself the queen mother of all headaches, okay, maybe excluding migraines, from the knot of your hairnet pressing into your forehead, and it is really painful and uncomfortable, and you don't want that. So as I said, I don't recommend doing that. I have seen a lot of people do it with the knots just on the sides of their heads here, but I feel like that might show, I don't know, I'm paranoid about it. So me, being the special person that I am, I actually like to do it with the knots diagonally. So I'm going to have 1 knot up here by my temple, just kind of where my face starts to fall away to form my temple and my cheek. There's usually just enough room for the knot to kind of hang out underneath my helmet right there, fit between my forehead and my helmet without being pressed into my skin and causing me any pain. Whatever you decide to do with your knots, you're going to start with your hairnet kind of stretched out over your fingertips like this. And you're going to put it over your head, and you want to bring it down in front, probably to right between your nose and your lip, all right? And you're just gonna put it over your head like this. And then you're gonna take your thumbs, and you're just kind of stick them under the hairnet and under your hair, so you can kind of guide all your hair inside the hairnet as we go back. And you're just going to gather everything into 1 ponytail. So you're going to have your hair and also this little sack of excess hairnet, and you're just going to form a ponytail with all of that. Now, once you have your hair all tied back, you can again kind of take your thumbs and run them back here to make sure that everything is inside the hairnet the way you like it. And then, now if you're wearing jewelry when you do this, just kind of be careful that your earrings aren't caught in the net, and you can just push what was here all the way up to your forehead. And you can push it all the way up to where your hair starts so that you don't end up with a sexy little gouge across your forehead from the elastic, just a little imprint. And you can adjust your hairnet so that it is sitting where you like. And then if your hair isn't covering your ears as much as you might like them to, you can just kind of stick your thumbs up here and your fingers here and just kind of smooth down. You don't want to just start pulling, because that's going to make things lumpy and bumpy and not neat. Now comes the fun part when we get to fit all of this underneath the helmet. Now, if you have shorter to mid-length hair, or hair that is very heavily layered, what you can do is actually take this little extra sack of hairnet, and you can always kind of pull on this to make things a little tighter up here since we had it stretched all the way down to almost our mouth. You can take this little sack right here, and you can take your hair and stuff it in there, and I'll just demonstrate really quickly. You can kind of roll it around your hand and then just stuff it into this little sack right here. My hair probably isn't going to fit all the way, but if you have shorter hair, again, this is why I said do this for shorter hair. If you can get it in that sack and it's not terribly big, you can just put that sack up against the back of your head when you go to put your helmet on, rather than trying to stick a stubbly little ponytail up underneath and get everything up inside. Again, my hair is a little too long and thick to do that, But just for demonstration, if you have any trouble, try doing that and see if you can get your hair under your helmet that way. Now, for any of us who do have layers, when we go to put our hair up like this, that kind of fall down, what I do, and you can do this too, kind of bring this sack of the hairnet underneath the hair bands, and you're just kind of making like a little taco shell around the base of your ponytail to catch all those little layers so that when you go to flip your hair up, they are caught. Now, I don't recommend twisting your hair at all when you do this because it can make your hair take up more room. And again, we talked about trying to fit too much hair into too little helmet and how that can affect the fit and become a safety issue. Now, if you have mid-length hair, you should probably be good just leaving the end of the ponytail like this. Mine obviously is longer than mid-length. In fact, it almost comes down to my chin. So I just kind of take the end here. I don't twist it too much, but maybe just a little bit to kind of gather it together. And I just kind of flip the end back. And I'm actually going to switch my hands around here, so I'm using my dominant hand to work my helmet, and I just kind of hold everything in place like this. And now you are going to take your helmet, and I kind of hold it with my thumb like this so that I'm holding the chin strap out of the way, because I have gotten the buckle of my helmet caught in my hairnet before, and I have not been able to free it without ripping a hole in my hairnet. So when we go to stuff everything under our helmet, you want to bend over a little bit, and you want to bring your helmet back so that the harness is pretty much to the nape of your neck. You want to bring it back pretty far. And I kind of hold my hair with my hand until the last possible minute to make sure that it doesn't fall out the front, but I do have to kind of move my hand out of the way. And there's the guy coming out. And you want to slide your helmet on from back to front, just like so. And just make sure that the hair elastic is outside of the hard shell of the helmet, because then it won't fit right and you can give yourself a headache again. And you just kind of slide it on like this. You can do a last minute check and make sure everything is up, and you are good to go. And of course, just make sure that your hairnet is not showing below your helmet. See how this is covering my ears here? I have some jewelry showing through a little bit, but my ears are nice and covered. This will keep your ears warm when it's nice and cold out. And everything is neat and tidy and secure. Then when it comes to taking everything off, you can just kind of bend over again, kind of wiggle your helmet off. Again, I usually kind of go, sometimes I go back to front, front to back, and just down like this to take your helmet off. And then sometimes if I'm just going to be hanging out for a little while, I just take my hairnet down and wear it like this, so it's kind of like a little bow around my ponytail. And then when it comes to getting your hairnet off and your ponytail out for good, I take the part that I had over my head and I stretch it back up again quickly, and then I can just take the elastic band off, and hairnet is off, and voila, you have glamorous helmet hair. So after explaining everything, I'm going to go back through everything I just did in real time, aka at the speed that I normally would without doing all the extra explaining, just so you can see how quickly and easily you can do this, alright? So I'm taking my hairnet, positioning the knots the way I like. It's over my fingertips. Starting with my hair over my shoulders, I pull it all the way down to where I want it to be. Gather everything into a ponytail and smooth it. Make the ponytail. And then I can push this up, away, kind of adjust my little sack of excess hairnet back here to pull out the excess that I had from bringing it down so far. Check to make sure it's adjusted the way I like. Don't yank any earrings out. Always be careful if you are wearing earrings. And now we are ready to go. Take my excess hairnet, bring it underneath, make a little taco shell around the base of my ponytail, flip it up, try not to twist it too much. Gather the ends of my hair together. I'm going to hold with my left hand so I have my right hand free. Grab my helmet, I'm holding the buckle out of the way with my thumb, bend over, bring it all the way back to about the nape of your neck, try to keep everything contained, and from back to front. Get the elastic out inside the harness rather than inside the helmet itself, and you are good to go. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. I hope you found the tutorial very helpful. Any questions, feel free to ask below. Any concerns, comments, they are absolutely welcome, and I wish you all the best of luck. Thank you.